Hello students, today we are going to discuss how do hens lay eggs. In hens, fertilization is internal as it takes place inside the body of female. But it does not give birth to a young one because the development of their young ones takes place outside the body of the female bird. This is therefore an example of internal fertilization and external development. Now, we will be wondering how chicks are born. Now let's discuss hence how chick come out from the egg. Soon after fertilization, the zygote start dividing and moves down the oviduct. As it moves down the oviduct, a number of protective layers get formed around it. An eggshell is one of these protective layer, and it is deposited around the eggs in the lower part of the oviduct of the hen, just before the egg is laid. The eggshell is made of calcite. It is made of calcite, which is a crystalline form of the calcium carbonate, CaCO3. After the hard shell is formed around the developing embryo, the hen finally lays the egg. And during the development of embryo, it gets its food from the egg yolk and the albumin in egg that helps in the protection. The hen sits on the eggs to provide sufficient warmth for the development of eggs, and the embryo takes about 21 days or 3 weeks to develop into a complete chick. The development of the chick takes place inside the eggshell during this period. After the chick is completely developed, then it bursts, opens the eggshell and come out of this, and this process is known as hatching. Students, on the basis of mode of reproduction, animals can be categorized into oviparous and viviparous animals. Viviparous animals are those animals whose female give birth to the young ones, and the development of the embryo takes place inside the body of mother. It means there is internal fertilization and internal development. And the mother gives birth to the young one, and this characteristic distinguishes mammal from the other groups. Examples are cow, dog, human beings, elephant, tiger, lion. Only exceptions are platypus and echidna. They are the mammal, but they do not give birth to their young ones. They lay their egg. The second category is oviparous animal. Oviparous animals are those animals which lay eggs. The eggs have little or no embryonic development within the mother, and the development of the egg takes place in the relevant external surrounding. It is a reproductive method of most of the fishes, amphibian, reptiles, birds, and insects. In birds, there is exception, which is bat. Bat is a mammal. It gives birth to its young one and feed on their babies. Now let's discuss how young ones changes into adult. The journey from young ones to adult, which is known as metamorphosis. Metamorphosis during the development of new individual, that is when they are born or hatched from the egg. How they changes into an adult. Continuous growth occur with considerable changes in the body structure. All young ones grow to form adults regardless of whether they have hatched from an egg or they are born directly. And in many animals, the young ones at birth is a very small version of the adult form. And the development of such young ones into adult is known as direct development. But in some animals, the young ones initially are very different from their adults. For example, tadpoles. They look very different from an adult frog Similarly, a caterpillar or a pupa of a silk moth or butterfly, they look very different from its parents. In fact, there are a number of features in the adult frog that are not present in the tadpole or at the larval stage. Now let's discuss them. What are these changes? You have learnt in your earlier classes about the life cycle of the butterfly. These animals reproduce by laying egg, and the young one of these animals look very different from the adult. Similarly, frog also lays the egg, and their young ones, they look very different from the adults. The young ones undergo drastic changes before changing into an adult, and this process is known as metamorphosis. Meta means after, the word meta means after, and morphosis means form. Now let's discuss the life cycle of a frog. If you look this picture carefully, you will notice that the tadpole, they look very different from the adult frog. The changes that occur during the different stages of a frog, they are controlled by hormones. They are controlled by hormones which are known as juvenile hormone. Juvenile hormone, the hormones that are released in young stage, juvenile hormone. And the various changes that occur in the life cycle of the frog, they are controlled by a hormone that is known as thyroxine. Now let's discuss what are the changes. A female adult frog lays a number of eggs in water, and the process of laying egg in a large number, it is known as a spawning. It is known as spawning. The babies that hatches out of the frog's egg, they are called tadpoles. Now tadpoles undergo several changes before it becomes an adult frog. In the same way as the caterpillar that hatches out of the cocoon of a silkworm become an adult moth. Now what are these changes? A marked and more or less abrupt development changes in the structure and habit of an animal, they occurring during its life cycle, they are termed as metamorphosis. And during the life cycle of frog, tadpoles emerges out from the eggs and it starts swimming in the water freely. Now tadpole has gills. It has gills, a tail. It has a tail and a small circular mouth. These are the features of the tadpole. The tadpole grows until it begins to undergo metamorphosis. And when metamorphosis begins, the development of the hind legs followed by the front legs takes place. Gills changes into lungs. And the tadpole begins to swim to the surface of the water to breathe. The intestine shorten to adapt the animal to a carnivorous diet, because carnivores have a shortened intestine. And in case of frog, the tail get absorbed by the body during the last stages of the metamorphosis. You can see here that tail is present in this, but here tail is going to be reabsorbed. And a tailed tadpole thereby changes into a tailless frog and it becomes an adult frog. And all these changes, they are controlled by a hormone which is known as a juvenile hormone. It is thyroxine hormone. And thyroxine is released from the thyroid gland, and iodine is necessary for the functioning of thyroxine gland, and frog takes iodine from the water. So it's all about the journey from young ones to adult. There is home assignment for you. You have to give 2 examples of animals that reproduce asexually. that reproduce sexually, animals that undergo metamorphosis, oviparous animal and viviparous animal. Thank you.